sometimes we find ourselves in the wildernesses that we created ourselves, right? We're the ones that dug the grave, right? But other times it's just things happen, and but I would agree with Lisa on that one. Definitely staying anchored in faith is one piece of it, or again, whatever your if you have a higher power, whatever it is, I think gives you a center. But I would also say try to surround yourself with quote unquote the right people.
It takes something a little more to lead with impact. I'm Lisa Nichols, author of Something Extra, and this podcast was inspired by our daughter Allie, whose additional chromosome has shaped how I see people in leadership. Each episode features conversations with inspiring leaders from around the world about what truly defines how they lead and serve others. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please consider leaving a 5-star review. It helps more people discover the show. And if you'd like to go deeper, my book, Something Extra, is available on Amazon and through other major book retailers. Joining us today is Ladi Adefala, a world-renowned cybersecurity strategist, founder and CEO at Omega 316, and board chair at Delta Dental of Missouri. Ladi has spent over 2 decades helping Fortune 500 leaders turn digital risk into a strategic advantage. From building $100 million business units to slashing cyber recovery time from days to hours, Ladi is a recognized director to watch in corporate governance. Well, Ladi Adefala, welcome to the Something Extra podcast. I cannot tell you how excited I am because we've already been talking for a good 20 minutes because I said I haven't seen you in a month, so we got lots to catch up on.
You are ever so kind, ever so kind. Yes, exciting to just to connect again, an opportunity to connect. But yes, always a blessing to be with you, Lisa. Always a blessing.
I agree. I agree. Well, we're going to have a lot of fun, and you've got so much wisdom to share with our listeners. And that's the purpose, and that is my goal every time. It's just what can we share that's going to be helpful to our listeners. So I always love to go back and tell our guest how I meet my guest, right? Or tell our listeners how I meet my guest. And yeah, it was so wonderful because last year, Kieran Aiken, who is the CIO for Delta Dental, was up for an Orby Award. And we were the founding underwriter for the Orbeez in St. Louis. And so we're there. And then Landon Burke we were just talking about that, Landon Burke from our office, who I absolutely adore, saw you. And then you guys started talking. He goes, hey, come over and meet Lisa. And as we talked, Ladi, I'm like, oh my goodness, we know all the same people.
That's right. We did. Probably more so that we don't even know that we know. Actually, these are just the ones we do know. But yeah.
These are just the ones we do know, right? But it's cool because you are the chair of the board for Delta Dental, and then you were there to support Kieran, and he won.
Yeah.
Oh, Kieran, he won the Orby. He was a finalist, and yeah, so that was pretty amazing. And then I said, let's get together for lunch. And I just have to tell our listeners this story. So Ladi, you're a huge reader. We're going to talk about your reading repertoire and all of the books. And you have this email that you sent out, and you were so sweet and so kind to buy the Something Extra book that had just come out in September. And you and I had lunch, and you clearly had read the book. Because at the end of the lunch, you bring out this little pink bag from under the table and you go, this is for Allie. And so I didn't open it because it's Allie's to open, right? I had no idea what you had brought her as a gift. She opens it and it's her favorite perfume, Happy by Clinique. And you had read the story in the book about that and talking about having your happy on.
I know it was a great story. It was a great moment. And man, I'm so glad that you shared that too, because yeah, it's an opportunity to encourage someone that just is so encouraging, so full of life, and that has an impact on so many people, has touched so many lives. Anyway, it was the token kind of little thing I could do to say thank you, Allie.
I see you.
I
Yes.
see you, I hear you,
See
and
you.
keep
I
your
hear you.
heart calm.
I know, and she was so happy to get her happy. But I mean, Lottie, I really respected you before that meeting, and I came away from that meeting going, this guy is exceptional. I mean, you brought something extra that day. So,
God be the glory.
all glory goes to God. I know.
God be the glory.
But let's get into, because there's so much to you. But, let's talk about like what shaped you. Tell me just a little bit about your growing up, if you would. What are the moments that shaped who you are today, Lottie?
Wow, that's a great question. I think, it's always helpful to go back, like you said, to what shapes our lives. So I grew up in Nigeria, which is West Africa, and a lot of the value systems I have outside of, like, apart from the spiritual kind of rootedness, comes from that. So, for example, things like, hard work and all of those things, I think, come from, just growing up with parents and in a country where you have two extremes. You have, extremely wealthy, but then you have, I mean, it's very, you know, when you think about humble beginnings in a place like Nigeria or West Africa, it's so much different than humble beginnings like anywhere else. At least from my perspective, it's like, wow, that's crazy. So I think, yeah. So definitely, those were moments where I'll tell you an interesting story just to kind of to center us on what I mean by, being shaped by that.
Yes.
There were times when my mom, who didn't have a car, by the way, she didn't have a car, would go get groceries, and and this was like, I mean, transportation. It was public transportation, buses, but they would not take you to your house, right? So she had a walking distance of, say, I want to say about half a mile, and she would be carrying pounds and pounds of bags of stuff, food to come feed the family. And when you grow up seeing that, and then there were other parents, right? There were other people that you see them, cruising in their cars, and
Probably did something in you to make you hungry, to not for yourself, but for others, because I know you're all about other people. So, wow. Well, tell me about coming to the States. When did you come to the States? Tell
Woo, that's a good one.
me
Yeah. So my journey to the States was really a God moment.
your
Yeah.
journey. Okay.
Um, you know, it was closer to the year 2000. I don't know if you remember the whole Y2K.
Oh, yeah. The world was gonna
The
end.
world was going to end, right? But leading
Yes.
up to that, I had actually just graduated about 2 years ago in 96, 98, thereabout. Actually, I was working in 98, and I had a couple of job offers. One of them was for Anderson Consulting in Nigeria. But at the time, I was also exploring because they're like, hey, we need all the tech expertise in the US because this
Mhm.
Y2K thing is coming, and we need people that understand technology. So I had put out a couple of resumes out on the internet back then, and I had an uncle that worked at Oracle here. Anyway, so I kind of like filled the resumes out, but I also had an opportunity to enroll in the UK for my master's in engineering, computer engineering program.
Mhm.
So these are all like, you have irons in the fire, and you're thinking, and um, as God would have it, like I said, it's a God moment. As God would have it, all three of them came through. I got an offer to work at Accenture, again, and some consulting back then.
Yes.
Those I remember. I got my almost like, it wasn't a full scholarship, but it was really a financially aided kind of enrollment at the Imperial College of Science and Technology in London. So that came, and then this offer came from a company here. in the U.S. It was a consulting company that worked with AT&T, actually based out of St. Louis, and they had an offer with my visa and all the stuff, leading up to my green card and citizenship. So all those three things came in. So
Yeah.
the question was, what do you do?
Right. You had lots of good options.
And the God of the valleys is the God of the mountains, I think, and I think it's when we can go to Him and say, okay, I don't any one of those choices, they're good, but which is the best one, because you can see the future and you know all things. Anyway, so that's how to cut the long story short, went down the path of the job offer, and the way God worked it out. Once I got to the U.S. and I got enrolled, with my green card process and all that stuff, and with the company, found out that AT&T at the time was also offering financial, kind of aid, and so I ended up applying at WashU to actually do my MBA. So that's how God kind of worked all that out. So I kind of got both,
You got
all
both. You
three
got
in
the
one
whole
time.
thing.
Yeah, I got the whole thing. I got a job in the States. I got my, advanced education, post grad, and then I got everything through that. So
Better than you could hope or imagine.
that's how He works.
I know.
He
Well,
works.
I'm so happy because we love having you here in St. Louis. Oh, so Lottie, when you think about your message, yeah, I know like knowing your why
So
is really important to you, right? When did that become real for you? And tell me what your why is. I mean, we're borrowing from Simon,
yeah, exactly. Actually, that's what
cousin Simon.
Simon said. It's interesting that I think to some degree, I think many people, a lot of people actually, probably had some. I can't describe what it was, but Simon Sinek came and then he put words to what everybody was trying to, and everyone just like
Yes,
locked in. Like, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And yeah,
yes.
really, when that became a thing for me, it was like, okay. So my why is pretty simple, and it's really what drives Omega 316 now, is lifting the hearts and minds of everyone we come in contact with. That's just it. It's real simple. We got to lift up people, hearts and minds, and if we can do that, I think what God has done through us, right? Through me,
Mhm.
for example, because that's what God did for me, right? He lifted me up from where I was to where I am right now, and He's still lifting. He's still writing that story. So
Amen.
that's my simple
Amen.
why now. It's morphed over the years, I think, because initially it was like, okay, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, others and all. But when we really kind of crystallize it, it's just lifting the hearts and minds of people. It really is.
Yeah. Well, I know you've lifted mine. So,
Oh,
I know you have.
you're so kind. So kind you are.
All right. Well, let's talk about, seasons, wilderness seasons. Could you talk
Woo!
about that? And I
Woo-hoo!
know you have a favorite movie, and let's just go there.
I
Let's talk
like
about
it.
your favorite movie, and let's talk about wilderness. What does the wilderness season look like? What did the wilderness season look like for you? How did you get out of the wilderness season? And then let's tie it into your favorite movie, which I'm just going to go in and say it is Lion King.
Lion King is one of my favorite movies. Yeah,
Yes.
it is. Yeah, so I think it helps to provide some context, right? Lion King is so much. There's so much in that movie. It is my favorite movie because it depicts a life journey with Simba that is unexpected, right? Because he starts out thinking he wants to be a king, right? There's a whole song like, I can't wait to be king. I can't wait to be king.
Right.
And then one event, right? Losing his dad kind of forces him to run away from what he wanted to do and who he was supposed to become,
Mhm.
right? So let me apply in my life in terms of wilderness seasons. There's been a ton of them, but this one I think is worthy of the time, right?
Let's
So there
do
was,
it.
Yeah, there was a time when many moons ago I was working for an organization, and we were growing. So I was charged with growing a team, right? And it's like, okay, we're growing a team, and at some point I was um, I was going to hire this very seasoned person from a technology perspective, much older, much wiser, just a lot more operating experience in a number of different areas. And I was like, this would be such a great addition to the team. So let's try to see what we can do. So went through interviews. Anyway, long story short, the leadership at my organization then decided that, yeah, instead of me actually running the organization, this part of the organization that I was responsible for, that this person that I was already, I mean, we were like the last stage. I was like, hey, this is off. They said,
Hmm.
well, we're gonna kind of switch roles here, so you can.
That had to have been just here you are hiring for this person, and then you end up working for the person.
Right. That's
Which
that's
role?
that's exactly how it's. And I think in life there's there are moments. The wilderness moments are moments for reflection. They're there to redirect you. Sometimes
Mhm. Mhm.
they force us in directions we should have found ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes they kind of right. Anyway, so of course when that first happened, I was like. So and then the team was like all some people leaving, some no, we're not. I mean, it was just like chaotic. But then I went to God, and all I could hear was, "Okay, so your ego and your pride are talking right now. Let's just remember what the word says, right? God gives grace to the humble. He
Yep.
resists the proud."
Yes.
Even though, again, I mean, things can happen to you or for you. It just depends on your context and your perspective. So,
Mhm.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I was still kicking and screaming, but I was like, okay, I'll try this out for a couple of months and see what happens. Tried it out, didn't work. Ended up saying no, can't do it. The leadership said, okay, well, we're not going to let you go. We're going to put you somewhere else. You got to find something else for you. That's fine if you don't want to do this anymore. They did, and I got to tell you, Lisa, that was a very difficult time. When we talk about
Mhm.
a very difficult time because when your identity is kind of tied to your work.
Yes. Ooh. Now you're opening up a really big subject right here. I mean, it's so true, Lottie. Tell me about that
Yeah, because
because
my identity up
oof,
until then was tied to, oh, this is, and in many ways, God was telling me that my job had been my God,
mm,
right? And I had forgotten who actually gave me the job, right? The giver,
yes,
right? We're worshiping the what was made, right? The creation instead of the creator.
yes.
And anyway, so uh, yeah, my identity was tied. So it was really, really hard. It was moments of like sleepless nights. I was like, this whole thing just, I don't even know what to do. And I kind of wrestled with God big time on this one. So I took a different role, which was not fulfilling. It was just empty. And of course, when you're in a role where you feel empty, your performance is just gonna. It's there's no way you can't do what you're supposed to do.
Right. And other people are gonna feel it, Lottie.
They can see right through, even though you may think you're coming. People can see right through that, and they did.
Right.
Right, a lot of people kind of did.
Yes.
Anyway, it came to a point where I remember this vividly. It was a Sunday night, and I was just down on my knees praying. Praying for guidance, wisdom, discernment. What you want me to do here, Lord, and I just remember, this may sound weird to some, but I just remember God speaking to me and saying, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to leave your job this role. Just leave the company, leave the role, leave everything. But here's what I want you to do. Here's the real kicker. I don't want you to find a different job. I want you to leave and just be without any safety net, just be without a job. And I'm like, am I hearing voices?
Did I hear? Did I hear this right?
Yeah, I don't know if you've been there, and
Oh yeah.
for anyone that's ever had some of those wilderness moments again, as you're reflecting, and I really encourage you, yeah, to just dig deep in Scripture and connect with the Lord because He's the only one that can really kind of make a way where there is no way. Anyway, so I was like, so I kind of wrestled with that for another like months. Like, you want me to do what? I don't have a job. I got bills. I got all these things. Right? It's like, no, this cannot be true. I got to find them. And nope, it just kept coming back to nope.
Mm.
So this always seems to happen on Sundays for me anyway. So there I was again. I was like, okay, finally Sunday night, a different Sunday night. I was like, okay, Lord, I just surrender. Okay, if you want me to leave this thing without having a job, I just surrender. But we try to negotiate with God sometimes.
Yes.
It's like, here's the but, here's the real but. Just to make sure I'm not crazy, can you give me a sign that I'll just? It's like the whole story of Gideon and
Gideon and the fleece. Yeah.
like just so that I can't I want to know that I'm not crazy, right? Just
Yeah.
a sign, and I could crystal clear. I could hear it, still hear it now. Is like, okay, I'm not going to give you a sign because whatever sign I give you, you're going to try to figure your way out of it. You give me a sign. What do you want to be the sign, right?
Yeah.
Which is again, if you follow what Gideon's like, okay, Gideon's the one that came up with, hey, let this be okay. So okay. I was like, hey, here's the thing. Tomorrow's Monday. We usually have a leadership meeting. If my superiors at that time, if they say, let's go out to lunch, because Mondays were jam packed with meetings and nobody's going to lunch. People
Yeah.
lunch in, it's like jam packed. If they say, let's go out to lunch, I will take that as a sign and I will turn in my resignation.
Okay.
So
So what happened? Here comes Monday.
come Monday, I'm in the leadership meeting. And of course, I'm not paying attention, right? Because when you make a deal with God, you better stay true to that deal, right?
Yeah.
So all I was playing in my head is, are they going to ask me to lunch? Are they going to ask me to go to lunch? Are they going to ask me to lunch? And finally, you know what? 5 or 10 minutes before the time, they're like, hey, Ladi, do you want to go to lunch? I almost peed in my pants.
Oh my goodness.
I really did. I almost peed in my pants. I kid you not.
Wow.
At that moment,
Pretty clear.
it was like crystal. There's no how.
Oh, I
In
love
what
it.
world do So before we sat down at the table at lunch, because I was afraid if I sat down, I would try to wiggle my way out of it.
Yeah.
I told the guys, hey, I got something I got to tell you. I got something I got to tell you, right? They're like, oh, you got something? Okay, what? Yes. It's like, I got to go. They're like, what do you mean you got to go? You fine? I'm like, yeah, I'm leaving the company and I'm going to just leave the company. They're like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. I don't. They're like, are you
Are you serious?
serious? Right? Are you lying or what?
Right.
I'm like dead serious. I don't. And the most remarkable thing happened, Lisa. And cut the long story. I mean, there were all kinds of people came. Hey, you gotta stay 2 weeks. Go take your vacation or whatever. Come back. We're gonna find something you can't leave. Blah blah blah. All that stuff. But nobody really knew the inner kind of what was really going on.
Right. They didn't know the deal that you had made with
God
God.
had made, right? So it didn't matter. You couldn't pay
Yeah.
me. You couldn't pay me enough to stay there. I don't care what
Mhm.
it was. I was, I
Mhm.
was like, you know what? And oh, by the way, the day I left, the day I turned in, there was a peace that I can't even describe. When the Bible talks about a peace that surpasses understanding, I
Yeah.
think a lot of people are, oh, I didn't have a job. I didn't know I was going to pay my bills. I didn't have all these other things. Now, the company was so kind. They also gave me like a severance package, believe it or not. Usually,
Yeah.
severances are given when the company says, "Hey, you got to go." I was
Yeah.
the one that chose to leave, but they still wanted to because they knew I wasn't. So even that I didn't know was happening. But when they
Wow.
revealed that, I was like,
What a gift.
God, this is God's hand in this, right? He's saying,
Yes.
I am the one that
It's
provides.
going to provide. Yeah.
The Lord will provide. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and everything else shall be added on to you. And anyway, so I left there, and I was like, oh, okay, all right. So I was like, I was bawling tears. And over the weekend, I got to tell you, that single decision changed the course of my entire leadership career. I mean, everything just changed. It was like, because over that weekend, I guess the news kind of got out, and a couple of people started reaching out to me, and my phone was going, "Hey, we heard you later. What's going on?" And then by the following week, people that I had known in the industry started reaching out, saying, "Hey, that's awesome. Do you have a company that we can do business with? We really value you. Can you do?" And out of that was born Omega 316, and I had
Oh,
that was one of my first clients, was born from that. And then from there, the blessings from the Lord just kept coming and
oh,
coming and coming. So if there's anything I could tell people, encourage them, sometimes we don't, nobody wants to hear this when you're in the wilderness, when you're in
yeah.
the thick of adversity and trial, and you can't, it's after you're out of it, you can look back and see it. But I would encourage you, um, there's a purpose in there as you seek the Lord. There's something big, right? The strength comes from the struggle. And man, oh man, after that, it was a
Oh
blessing.
my goodness.
Yeah.
I love that story. Thank you so much for sharing that because we didn't get a chance to talk about that when we had lunch cuz you know what? Let me say this too and then we do need to take a quick break. The
Oh,
other thing that really impressed me about Lottie when we had lunch was Lottie brings out his journal.
oh, you're kind.
And Lottie had all these questions for me that were all written down in his journal. So you got to ask more questions than I did. So I'm turning the tables on you here, Lottie. But I was so impressed by that, and I'm like, that's a leadership lesson there too, Lottie. When it's intentionality, you know, you had already kind of thought through. Now I'm having this lunch with Lisa. Here's the things I would love to know from her. And you came prepared. I had an old boss, Lottie. He was a Marine and he drilled many things into me, but the one thing that he drilled that I will never forget, I'm praying if God lets me live till I'm 90, I'll still remember this, but he said, failing to prepare is preparing to fail, you know? And I just thought, wow, you came so prepared for that lunch and I was so impressed by that. But that's just a really good leadership lesson too for people, you know, if somebody's going to take the time, you know, just make sure that you know what you want to talk about in that conversation. But we do need to take a quick break. I've got lots more questions for you, Lottie. But we'll take a quick break and then we'll come right back with Ladi Adefala.
Hey there! In a challenging business climate like this, savvy leaders look to technology to find an edge. This can mean the difference between staying ahead of the curve or playing catch up. It's time to collaborate with the highly skilled experts at Technology Partners. Our team of technologists draws upon decades of experience for your project, with each bringing a passion for solving problems and a track record of success. How can we help you overcome your biggest technology challenges? Visit technologypartners.net to book a free consultation with one of our leaders.
So, welcome back, everyone, to the Something Extra podcast with my friend Ladi Adefala. And we've been having a little sidebar conversation here in the in between that won't go into the podcast. But, you know, we were just talking about all in moments, Lottie,
Yes, we were.
you know, and I mean, you had an all in moment. You're like, God, I asked you about this and I'm going, you know.
Wasn't all.
I've had many all in moments. You know, there's been times in Technology Partners that were really hard, and you're like, really? I mean, do we need to keep going? But if God's called you to it, He'll equip you for it, right? And
Man,
I said, just because it's hard doesn't mean it's not right.
that is money. That is so
And
true. It really is.
so true.
Because it's hard. And like we were talking about, that may be, and I'm not saying it always is, but that may be a sign that, okay, this is something meaningful, and therefore resistance in the form of whatever you want to call it, right? The adversary is trying to stop that. And that,
Yes.
yeah, anytime he gets wind of something good, it shows, I mean, resistance shows up. If you want to like do nothing or just waste your life away, you won't, yeah, it's easy. You won't find resistance coming in, but yeah.
That's such a good word. That's such a good word. And that should bring hope to people
Amen.
that are in that season. Lottie, I mean, we were talking about the wilderness before. Um, what I want to say to our listeners is everybody goes through wildernesses, right? If you are in a wilderness right now, you are not alone.
Nope.
I've Lottie just described his wilderness. I've been through wildernesses. Everybody, if you haven't gone through one, get ready because you will, right?
No. You will.
And what I would say is for Lottie and I, it's our faith
Amen.
that really anchors us. You know, I when our ship is going crazy, you got to have that anchor, right? But whatever it is, find an anchor.
Amen.
You know, it may not be what anchors us, but find an anchor and just hold on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hold on, because it gets better,
It does.
Lottie, don't you think? And it's
I
like, just
do.
don't give up. Don't give up.
Yeah, don't give up. And to your point, if there's anyone listening, and I'm trying to just walk in their shoes right now, because there's different types of wildernesses, right? With kids, with family. It may not just even be yours, right? Sometimes, you know, it's something that you can't control. You have no, it's not, sometimes we find ourselves in the wildernesses that we created ourselves, right? We're the ones
Right,
that dug the
right.
grave, right? But other times it's just things happen, and but I would agree with Lisa on that one. Definitely staying anchored in faith is one piece of it, or again, whatever your, if you have a higher power, whatever it is, I think gives you a center. But I would also say, try to surround yourself with quote unquote the right people, right? And
That's
the right people, it may sound easy, but it's not that obvious sometimes, because you want people that will walk alongside you in that
mhm,
wilderness. Again, when it comes back to faith, people that will pray for you, not people that will behind your back or whatever start saying, "Oh, this person." No, that's not. You want trusted, a small circle of people that can lift you up
mhm.
in those times, because everybody goes through it.
Absolutely. You know, and if you're not going through one of those times right now, be it for somebody else, Lottie.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Be it for somebody
That's a
else,
good one.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, let's talk about gosh, I've got so much I wanna talk to you about. I wanna talk more about Omega 316,
Yeah.
but I there's something that I read, and maybe we'll, like, go here. This is a leadership podcast, so I wanna talk all about leadership, but I had read, somewhere, and now let me see where I had put this. You know, you've got like I don't know what you like principles, what I want to say, maybe some um not hacks, but things that you kind of live by. And one is autonomy, mastery, and purpose.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
it
yeah.
comes from Daniel Pink, which I love that book, Drive.
Yep, that's right.
Drive.
Hmm.
Talk about, and you said you recommend dedicating 1 to 2 hours of AMP time daily.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, so tell me about AMP time because I think that'll help our listeners, Lottie.
I think so. I think so. So yes, what Lisa's talking about is a habit that I really started developing in the wilderness moment,
Mm,
right? Because again, depending on what season of leadership you're in, time is the one thing that you don't have. for anything else, right? Because your time is just, yeah, it's time in general is precious, right? It's the one thing you can't. But anyway, the reason I kind of give the context is, what ends up happening is we spend all our time doing the work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without refueling where the work is, coming from, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's like we give, and there is very little intentional time for replenishment. Most of us just think, because I'm in the doing mode, because I'm an executive, because I'm doing all these things, that that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And I remember having a meeting with one of the execs that I know, one of the CEOs, and he's like, I feel guilty if I'm taking time for my own kind of personal growth. I could do. I was like, because you're never really off, even when you leave the
That's
office.
right.
As you're always on. So I'm like, if you don't. So amp time is the intentional focus time, and usually for me it's in the mornings, right? So I do my quiet
Mm-hmm.
time, I do my workouts, and then anything before I even look at email, before any of that stuff, it's amp time. Whatever works for you. If
Yeah.
it's podcast, if it's a book, if it's listening to whatever that may be. But the intentional part of it, though, is that you have to make sure that there's some level of growth that's happening um,
Daily.
daily.
Yes.
You have to, again, it's really easy to ignore it. It's the first thing people want to, it's like working out. It's like working out. It's like, okay, from a physical workout perspective, you're like, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm in shape. Well, here's what happens. You may be in shape today, but trust me.
Yeah, if you don't do the workout, you won't be in shape tomorrow. That's for sure. And the older we get, the harder it is. Let me tell you.
I'm just like, okay, so yeah, so with that, I started. I do you mentioned that earlier in terms of the books. So for me, it's definitely reading. I do mostly audiobooks. I still do like hard copies sometimes, but mostly audiobooks. Just because I'm about and flying, all that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, and I started out with, hey, let's see what we can do with one book a month. I think I've read somewhere that Warren Buffett or one of these guys, they like they do like 52 books a year or something, and I'm like, oh, that's
Oh,
crazy. I'm like, how is that even possible, right?
Uncle Warren spends like 5 or 6 hours a day just reading, Lottie.
I'm like, well, I can't do that, but here's what
I
I
know.
can do, right? Let me just try and see what.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, started trying to read one book a month, and God had everything to do with this. Again, to Him be the glory. But now I average about eight every month.
8 books a month. Okay, I want you to tell our listeners because you were so sweet. You're like, "Your book is gonna go on my list." And so you have this list of books and you kind of summarize the books and you send that out, I guess, on a monthly basis
I
or every
do. I do. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah.
So from that, and again, I think it's one of those where if you have the mindset of trying to give, if you're trying to give to others,
Yes.
um, I think it's if you have something that's you think will be of value to somebody else, and which is the whole premise of this. It started with one person saying, "Hey, you have that? Can you?" I was
Can
like,
you give
"Okay,
it
yeah."
right?
So I kind of curated it. I just tell them, nothing too heavy. Don't want to, be spoiler alerts. But yeah, just a synopsis. Here's what this book is about. It's about leadership, or it's about boards. It's about M&A. It's about private equity, whatever that means. And
Mhm.
I give some of the insights that I think are of value, and some that I strongly recommend. Right? I say
Yes.
strongly recommend for this. If you're going through this right now, this is what.
Yes.
And then I send it to just a select few. And I think some people think it's like an automated. It's not. It's a select few folks which maybe after this podcast, I may.
You're gonna have people wanting to be on the list.
But yeah, but it's also an opportunity for me to check in.
I I agree. Well, Lottie, I'm just thinking because I was on a call with someone yesterday, as a matter of fact, and they were kind of describing a challenge to me. And here's why it's really important because, like, right now, I'm reading Mark Miller and Ken Blanchard's new book, The Secret. It's the fourth edition. Love Mark Miller. And of course, Kim Blanchard was number 200 on the Something Extra podcast. And
Look at that. Awesome.
I still remember that conversation like it was yesterday. But anyway, this person was describing this challenge to me, and I asked her, I said, have you read the book, The Secret? Because I really think, I'm reading it right now, I think based on what you're describing to me, I think it will help you. So that's the other thing that you can do, right? And that's another way to give. And we're just always trying to figure out how we can lift other people up. We can help them on their journey. So I just love that you do that. So let's talk about this, okay? Because I love this. I want to hear more about this. You talk about a grain of rice on a cheese board.
Yeah.
A grain of rice on a cheese board. Tell me about that. It's an analogy that you use, but what is that?
It is. So it focuses on the power of compounding, right? Because
Okay.
there's this story. I mean, most people probably have heard it, right? It's the story of, do you want what would you rather prefer, right? It's a lump sum of, 3 million bucks or 2 million bucks, or would you rather have a penny that doubles, every day for the next 30 days? Oh, well, it's the same principle with the grain of rice, right? Because the grain of rice is like, okay, you get, which would you rather prefer? Would you prefer this bag of rice here, or this grain that doubles across
Yes.
the chessboard over? And believe it or not, that grain that doubles, across the, is a lot more. And it's an illustration for the power of compounding. That's another thing I think I certainly did underestimate. We really do. And, here's when you're underestimating it, when you think you're not. That's your key. You're like, no, I'm pretty. No, you're not. Because I was there. I was like, oh, yeah. And I'll give you the analogy here. Yeah, there's the financial one. I think everybody gets, right.
Yes.
If you save this and you keep saving, it will, that's fine. But where it becomes a little bit tougher is in the intangibles. I'll use the book example. Right? When I first started, kind of reading, it's like, oh, this is crazy. I can't do it. I mean, 52 books of who does that? Right? It's like, a book a month. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do that. I have no idea.
Now you're
What happens is you start doing that, and then, by the grace of God, you're like, oh, you know what? I got a rhythm going on here. Let's see, I got a habit, right? And really, there's no way you can compound without having a habit. So then you find out that, okay, well, the habit's going, and I still got time. Okay, I can do 2, I can do 3, and it starts to compound. But then life in itself, what we give in life, starts to compound. Right? Sometimes you're not, when you're doing the giving, you're not really thinking about compounding, right? Because if that was the purpose for the giving, then I guess it would be
right.
Does that make?
Yeah.
But it starts to, it just, you can't even describe how. It may not even come from the same source. It may come from different places. I remember where I was asked to, a friend of mine had reached out. Actually, a friend of a friend had reached out to me saying, hey, we need a speaker in Minneapolis for something, and we don't have a honorarium. We can't pay you. We can't do all that. But, this person said you're his friend and you're really good at it. So we want to, and she's like, would you be willing to fly out and just do this for us? I know we don't, and she's trying to sell me on all the business opportunities, right? Well, I can introduce all these people. I was like, you don't have to, don't worry about it, right? Let me check my calendar. Let me see, and I flew out there and I did that. 3 or 4 years later, I can't tell you how many other things
came from that.
Yeah, just from that. Like, she connected with this, and all of a sudden this person's that. They're like, oh, this is great. Now we got some board stuff. I mean, it's like, anyway, so my point is the power of compounding. You can't, the financial part is, I think, is easy. And the personal growth stuff is.
That's so good. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Couple of things. One is I said the rice on the cheese board because I don't have my glasses on and it's a chess board. So you're going to have to,
I knew what you meant.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Um, I wanted to clarify that. And then secondly, I just remember having Tom Ziegler on the podcast.
Mm,
Lottie.
yeah.
Zig Ziglar's
Mm-hmm.
son.
Mm.
And he talked about his dad, and he said every day, and I told him, I said, "Tom, I'm just gonna tell you, I'm ripping that off and duplicating it," because he said he loved the title of the podcast, Something Extra. He loved it, and he loved the story behind it. But he said, "I will tell you something." He said, "People like would ask me, 'My goodness, how is your dad? Like, how does he know so much?'" And he said, "My dad had this habit of learning something extra every single day. And then when he would learn it, he'd give it away. He would share it to somebody else. And if it was something worthy that he felt like would help somebody else, then he would just share it. And his dad was one of the greatest motivational speakers in our lifetime, right?
Oh,
Um, but I think, yeah, the compounding of that. And then when you share it, oh my goodness, think about what you're depositing in that person, Lottie. That's where the multiplicity comes from. That's where the rice on the chessboard really starts to compound. But oh my goodness, I'm having so much fun with you, my friend. I'm telling you, I have got probably 50 more questions here, but I know that we can't have a 5-hour podcast. So, um, let's talk about one more thing. I'm going to do a little lightning round with you with some questions, and then we're going to talk about something extra. Okay,
all right.
the something extra you believe every leader needs. Talk about the Chinese bamboo analogy.
Oh, that's a good one.
Tell us about that one because I think that will be helpful too to our
You
listeners.
love these things. This is awesome. By the way, Lisa, you came super prepared for. I didn't even remember I'd said stuff like that.
Oh my goodness. Well, you have met my second brain, Jenny, right? And Jenny helps me with research, and I'm so
Oh,
grateful for her. But
awesome.
yeah, she's the one that digs up all this awesome stuff to talk to you about.
She's awesome.
But tell me about the Chinese bamboo.
Yeah. So I will let me explain the Chinese bamboo first, and then I'll try to apply it to real life stuff. The Chinese bamboo seed, when you first plant it, right? You plant it, you put it in there in the soil, in the dirt, and you keep watering it for about a year. You don't see anything, nothing.
You see nothing.
You
I
don't.
mean, nothing
I mean,
comes up.
you really don't see anything. You just keep watering, and then maybe after about a year or so, you see a
Yeah.
tiny little sprout. It just that's one little sprout comes up, and then you keep watering, and nothing. First, so a year has gone by, 2 years goes by, the Chinese bamboo, nothing. 3 years go by, and all you still see is a single sprout. Let me
Oh,
pause. The first kind of like reaction, right? The common reaction, the conventional thing is like, okay, this thing's not,
it's not working.
it's not working.
Right.
I bought I don't know, a flawed seed, or this must be nuts, right?
Yes.
Or whatever it is, right? And that's if you don't know that it's a Chinese bamboo seed, right? Okay.
Hmm.
The fourth year, doop, 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 doop. All right. Now, here's the interesting thing. In the fifth year, in a span of about 5 months, that little sprout jumps up to be like 90 feet tall.
Oh my goodness.
It just shoots up. I mean, you're like, what happened here? And I often ask people, the real question we have to ask ourselves is, when did the tree become 90 feet tall? Was it in the span of 5 months, or was it like 5 years?
Hmm. I would say probably 5 years. Is that the right answer?
That is the right answer. So here's the application in our lives, right? And anyone that's gone to the gym, or you're trying to do something and you can't see the results, you can't see
Yes.
the outcomes, you can't see where it's gonna go. You don't. There's a tendency to just forget it, to lose hope and be like, nope, not working. It's not working. I just,
Hmm.
And I think a lot of us, myself included, after a certain time, you're just like, at what point, which by the way is a legitimate response. At
That is a
some point,
legitimate
you gotta be like, this stuff is not working. I
I
gotta
need
try
to pivot.
something else.
Yeah.
Pivot. You gotta pivot. But man, oh man, oh man, I gotta tell you, if God gives you the wisdom to know
Mm,
at that 90 feet, you're just like all of a sudden, people say like, oh, overnight success. Oh, Lisa Nichols, she's got something extra podcast. She was just an over. No, 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 no.
yeah.
It's been coming, coming.
Right.
And I guess my message for leaders is, or anyone really that's just got conviction in the heart, is you have to believe. You got to believe that what you're doing actually makes a difference as best as you can,
Yes.
until the rest of the world comes to kind of where you're at and says, "Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
this person's like, oh, this person's great. This person's that." And by the way, that's the other thing is success. Disease is you got to also wipe that away from your brain, because that you've been building this for decades.
Yeah.
So anyways,
Yeah.
that's the story.
Oh, that's so good. Oh gosh, Lottie. I mean that's gonna I'm a big story person. So that one's gonna really stick with me because yeah, I mean the natural response is this is not working. I'm gonna give up, but my goodness, can you imagine giving up like four years and 10 months? Then you don't have that. Oh my goodness, so good. Well, I've got a couple lightning round questions for you, and then we're gonna talk about something extra. Your favorite leadership book? It's gonna be hard for
Oh
you.
man.
It's not fair. I know, it's probably not fair.
Yes.
It's
Oh,
not fair.
oh man. If I could, uh, leadership and self deception is definitely on one of those. But there's a ton. There-
There's a
There's
ton.
a ton. I mean, I can't. That's
Just
a
get Lottie's, list.
yes.
Get his list. I knew that was not really fair. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
What are you working on currently personally? Is there something you're really excited about and that you're working on that you wanna tell us about?
Yeah, I think what I'm working on, again, working on myself is probably the most important thing, because that's really what's going to lift the
Right.
lid. A friend of mine asked me this, actually, and actually a mutual friend of ours, Scott Highmark, actually.
Oh, I love Scott Highmark.
I just had lunch.
Shout out to Scott.
Yeah. So anyway, he says, "What's the crossroads?" And what I'm working on is moving from, using whatever God's given me or us, and saying things like, "I want to glorify God," which is not a bad thing, by the way. It's not a bad thing.
Mhm.
Um, but I think it's a subtle but powerful shift in, I want to glorify God, to God's going to glorify Himself through me.
Yeah.
Subtle but very powerful. So I'm working on that.
Mm.
But of course, all things boards, AI, all of that. But internally, that's the inner game of leadership.
Yeah, you know what? We're gonna have to do a part 2 because, I mean, what we didn't even talk about is technology, and you are a technology master. I know that you talk a lot about AI. You're a cybersecurity, nationally known strategist. I mean, we didn't even get to technology, but Lottie, we'll have to do a part 2. We've already talked about daily habits. Um, do you have a best piece of advice that you've ever received? One that you kinda hang on to?
Bring out the best in people.
Bring out the best in other people. Oh, I love that. That's so good. That is a good piece of advice. Well, let me ask you this, because I ask every person, every guest, what is the something extra that you believe every leader needs?
Um, I believe every leader, you need, I call it a Rafiki from the Lion King.
The Lion
Every
King.
leader needs a Rafiki. You need, at least someone, if not multiple, right,
Yes.
that will help you remember who you are.
Mm.
that will help you remember who you are and
So good.
who you were called to be. You need, yeah, everybody needs it.
Every leader needs a Rafiki. So good. Oh my goodness, Ladi. Seriously, this has been, I can't even tell you how much fun this has been for me.
This was great. You're awesome.
And and
Man, you
and I
brought up all kinds of stuff that I didn't even expect. That's so good. I was like, wait a minute, how does she make up? That's awesome.
um well, I just know that your story, your wisdom, is just really going to help our listeners. I know it's helped me. So thank you so much for making the time to be on the show. And I cannot wait till we can sit down and have lunch again.
Me too. And I want to say something extra. No pun
Something extra. All right, let me hear your something extra.
My something extra is I can't tell you, and you may not even know, right, how the work you're doing, not just here, but in the multiple dimensions, um, is helping people. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But I really do think it changes lives.
Mm,
Maybe it may start out as a little seed and a little sprout, and then someone comes like, but over time, people's lives just begin to change. Um, so if there's any encouragement I could do, keep on, because sometimes, I mean, I think there's a tendency for us to want to look at likes and comments and all this, how many people, what's the engagement, what's the this, and get into all these things. And
yes.
those are good. I'm not saying they're not good, but we can't live and die by those because sometimes it's just, you don't know, it doesn't, you can't see it, right?
Ladi, that's so good.
Tree does not show up until the fifth year or whenever.
Right. That is so good. Thank you so much for that encouragement. Thank you for that encouragement. And I think that's an encouragement to everybody. It's like don't look at the comments, don't look at this. You don't know. Just keep doing what you're doing, called to do. And we're just the planters, really. Ladi, we're not the growers. We're the planters, And so, thank you for that word of encouragement. And I just know, like people like you being on the podcast has seriously made the podcast what it is. So I just so appreciate you, and have a great rest of the day, my friend.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Something Extra with Lisa Nichols is a Technology Partners production. Copyright Technology Partners, Inc. 2019. To learn more about this week's guest, check out the show notes at tpi.co/podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, consider leaving us a review. Thank you for listening to Something Extra.